Summary of Buddha's lessons. The Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths are the foundation of Buddhist teachings and provide a framework for understanding the nature of suffering, its cause, its cessation, and the path to liberation. They are often referred to as the truths because they are universal and unchanging, applying to all sentient beings. The Four Noble Truths are as follows. The truth of suffering, dukkha. All life is inherently characterized by suffering, from the fleeting nature of pleasure to the inevitability of pain and loss. This suffering is not limited to physical pain but encompasses mental anguish, dissatisfaction, and the impermanence of all things. The truth of the cause of suffering, samudaya. Suffering is caused by attachment, craving, and ignorance. This attachment refers to our desire for things to be different than they are, a clinging to the impermanent and fleeting nature of reality. The truth of the cessation of suffering, nirvana. Suffering can be overcome by eliminating the cause of suffering: attachment, craving, and ignorance. This is achieved through the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, which leads to liberation from the cycle of suffering. The truth of the path to the cessation of suffering, magga. The Noble Eightfold Path is the path to enlightenment and the cessation of suffering. It is a practical and attainable path that involves cultivating wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the practical guide to achieving enlightenment and ending suffering, as outlined by the Buddha. It is a path of ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom, encompassing 8 interconnected steps. Right understanding. Understanding the Four Noble Truths and the nature of suffering, impermanence, and non-self. Right thought. Cultivating positive, compassionate, and non-harmful thoughts. Right speech. Speaking truthfully, kindly, and constructively, avoiding gossip, harsh language, and lies. Right action. Engaging in ethical and wholesome actions, abstaining from harming others, stealing, lying, and engaging in sexual misconduct. Right livelihood. Choosing a profession that aligns with ethical principles, avoiding harmful activities, and contributing to the well-being of oneself and others. Right effort. Putting forth sustained effort to cultivate positive qualities and overcome negative ones. Right mindfulness. Paying attention to the present moment with awareness and clarity, observing thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. Right concentration. Developing the ability to focus the mind, achieve deep states of meditation, and attain mental clarity and tranquility. The Eightfold Path is not a rigid set of rules, but a flexible and adaptable guide that can be applied to all aspects of life. By following these steps, individuals can cultivate inner peace, wisdom, and compassion, ultimately leading to liberation from suffering. The concept of suffering, dukkha. At the heart of Buddha's teachings lies the concept of dukkha, often translated as suffering but more accurately encompassing a broader range of unpleasant experiences, including dissatisfaction, frustration, and the inherent impermanence of life. Dukkha is not just about physical pain but encompasses the mental and emotional struggles that accompany our existence. It recognizes the inherent dissatisfaction that arises from our attachment to fleeting pleasures and our fear of loss. Buddha observed that life is inherently filled with impermanence. Everything changes, from our physical bodies to our relationships, and this constant change can lead to a sense of instability and dissatisfaction. We crave permanence and security, but this clinging to what is impermanent only increases our suffering. This is why Buddha emphasized the importance of recognizing the nature of impermanence, anicca, and accepting the ebb and flow of life. Furthermore, Buddha pointed out that our suffering is often rooted in our misconceptions about ourselves and the world. We tend to cling to the illusion of a permanent, unchanging self, an ego that we believe is separate and independent. This clinging to a false sense of self leads to attachments, aversion, and ultimately, more suffering. The path to liberation, according to Buddha, lies in understanding the true nature of self, anatta, and letting go of this illusory sense of individuality, attachment and the cause of suffering. According to Buddha's teachings, suffering arises from attachment, which is the clinging to desires, possessions, and concepts. We crave pleasure and avoid pain, clinging to the illusion of permanence and control. This attachment creates a cycle of dissatisfaction and suffering, as we are constantly seeking fulfillment in things that ultimately cannot satisfy us. There are several types of attachment: attachment to material possessions, attachment to people and relationships, attachment to ideas and beliefs, and even attachment to the self. The more attached we are, the more likely we are to experience suffering, as these attachments create expectations and fear of loss. When things don't go our way or when we experience loss, it causes us pain. Understanding the nature of attachment is crucial to reducing suffering. By becoming aware of our attachments and learning to detach from them, we can find inner peace and liberation. This detachment does not mean becoming indifferent or emotionally detached, but rather learning to accept things as they are without clinging to them. By cultivating non-attachment, we can experience greater freedom and reduce our susceptibility to suffering. The impermanence of all things, anicca. A central tenet of Buddhism is the concept of anicca, which means impermanence or the constant change inherent in all things. This understanding permeates every aspect of Buddhist thought and practice, reminding us that nothing is permanent, including our own bodies, minds, and the external world. Anicca acknowledges the ever-shifting nature of existence. Everything is in a state of flux, constantly arising and passing away. This includes our thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, and even our sense of self. The recognition of anicca leads to a shift in our perception of the world. We become less attached to fleeting experiences and begin to appreciate the beauty and fragility of each moment. We come to see that clinging to permanence is a source of suffering. When we are attached to things staying the same, we inevitably experience disappointment and pain when they change. Anicca encourages us to live fully in the present moment, savoring the impermanent beauty of each experience. When we are mindful of the impermanence of life, we appreciate the preciousness of each moment and live with more intention. Understanding anicca helps us cultivate non-attachment, which is a state of freedom from clinging to desires, expectations, and possessions. This non-attachment allows us to accept the natural flow of life and find peace even in the face of change. Non-self, anatta, and the illusion of the ego. One of Buddha's most profound teachings is the concept of anatta, which translates to non-self. This principle challenges the notion of a permanent, unchanging self or soul that exists independently of the body and mind. It recognizes that the self is an illusion, a constantly changing and interdependent collection of physical and mental phenomena. Buddha saw the ego as a product of clinging to impermanent things, such as our thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. We tend to identify with these experiences and believe that they constitute our true self. This leads to suffering because we become attached to the illusion of a stable and independent self, leading to fear, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. By understanding the concept of anatta, we can begin to see the illusory nature of the ego. This realization frees us from the grip of suffering and allows us to live in the present moment with greater clarity and acceptance. Here are some key points to consider regarding the concept of anatta. The self is not a fixed entity but rather a collection of constantly changing processes. Our experience of the self is a product of our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, which are constantly in flux. Clinging to the illusion of a permanent self leads to suffering, while accepting the impermanence of all things brings liberation. Recognizing the illusory nature of the ego can be challenging, but it is a crucial step towards liberation from suffering and cultivating a more compassionate and enlightened perspective. Mindfulness and being present. A central tenet of Buddha's teachings is mindfulness, which involves paying full attention to the present moment without judgment. This practice encourages us to be aware of our thoughts, feelings, sensations, and surroundings without getting carried away by them. By cultivating mindfulness, we can break free from the constant stream of worries, regrets, and desires that often cloud our minds and prevent us from experiencing genuine peace and happiness. It's about observing our experiences with an open and accepting attitude, without clinging to them or pushing them away. Mindfulness is not simply a technique, it's a way of life. It involves training our minds to become more aware of our actions, words, and thoughts. By bringing our attention to the present moment, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. We can learn to appreciate the simple joys of life, cultivate compassion for ourselves and others, and respond to situations with more wisdom and clarity. Mindfulness is not about emptying the mind or achieving a state of blankness. It's about becoming more aware of our thoughts and emotions, recognizing that they are simply passing phenomena. By observing our thoughts without identifying with them, we can gradually develop a sense of detachment from them. This allows us to experience greater freedom and peace. Buddha emphasized the importance of practicing mindfulness in daily life. He encouraged his followers to be mindful of their breath, their body movements, their thoughts, and their interactions with others. He taught that by cultivating mindfulness, we can transform our lives from suffering to peace, from ignorance to wisdom, and from attachment to freedom. The practice of meditation. Meditation is a core practice in Buddhism, offering a path to cultivate mindfulness, self-awareness, and inner peace. It involves training the mind to focus on the present moment, observing thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. There are various forms of meditation, but common themes include mindfulness of breathing, paying attention to the natural rhythm of breath, noticing the rise and fall of the chest and abdomen. Body scan meditation, bringing awareness to the sensations of the body, from the tips of the toes to the top of the head, noticing any tension or discomfort. Walking meditation, focus on the physical sensations of walking, feeling the steps and the ground beneath the feet. Loving kindness meditation, cultivating feelings of compassion, kindness, and acceptance towards oneself and others. Samatha Vipassana, a combination of calming the mind, samatha, and developing insight, vipassana, through focused meditation. The concept of karma, cause and effect. Karma, a fundamental principle in Buddhism, is often described as the law of cause and effect. It suggests that our actions, both physical and mental, create consequences that shape our present and future experiences. Every action, thought, and word we create leaves an imprint on our consciousness, creating a chain reaction that influences our future lives. Positive and negative karma. Actions that are considered virtuous, compassionate, and beneficial to ourselves and others create positive karma, leading to happiness, well-being, and favorable outcomes. Conversely, actions that are harmful, selfish, and destructive create negative karma, leading to suffering, misfortune, and unfavorable outcomes. Rebirth in the cycle of existence. Buddhism posits the concept of samsara, a continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, driven by the accumulation of karma. This cycle is seen as a perpetual state of suffering, fueled by attachment, desire, and ignorance. The journey through samsara is not linear, but rather a complex process with various realms of existence, each offering unique experiences and challenges. Each rebirth is determined by the individual's karma, which reflects their actions, thoughts, and intentions. This karma shapes the conditions of their next life, influencing their physical form, social status, and the general circumstances they encounter. The cycle of rebirth is not simply about reincarnation in a human form, but rather a vast spectrum of existences, ranging from heavenly realms to animal realms and even lower realms of suffering. The goal of Buddhist practice is to break free from this cycle and achieve liberation, a state of enlightenment known as nirvana. This requires a profound transformation of the mind, letting go of attachments and cultivating wisdom and compassion. By understanding the impermanence of all things and the illusory nature of the self, individuals can begin to transcend the cycle of rebirth and attain a state of true peace and freedom, compassion and loving kindness, metta. Compassion, known as karuna in Pali, is a key aspect of Buddhist teachings. It involves understanding the suffering of others and wanting to alleviate it. Loving kindness, or metta, is a compassionate state of mind characterized by warmth, kindness, and goodwill towards all beings. It is a deep sense of connection and empathy that extends beyond oneself to embrace all sentient beings. Metta meditation is a practice designed to cultivate loving kindness and compassion. It involves focusing on oneself and then extending those feelings outward to others, gradually encompassing wider circles of beings. This practice helps to soften the heart, reduce negativity, and promote peace and harmony. The practice of metta is not about simply feeling good emotions. It is about cultivating a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all beings and recognizing that we all share the same fundamental nature. It is about recognizing that all beings are worthy of love, compassion, and kindness, regardless of their actions or beliefs. Cultivating metta is a powerful tool for promoting peace and well-being, both within oneself and in the world around us. It helps to break down barriers and foster a sense of unity and understanding. By practicing compassion and loving kindness, we can create a more just and compassionate world for all. The importance of ethics and right conduct. Buddhism places a strong emphasis on ethical conduct, believing that right actions lead to a more fulfilling life and a path towards enlightenment. This ethical framework is based on the concept of karma, the law of cause and effect, which states that our actions create consequences, both in this life and in future lives. The Buddha taught that practicing ethical behavior, also known as right conduct, helps us cultivate compassion, reduce suffering, and create a more harmonious society. The 5 precepts, a foundational set of ethical guidelines, serve as a framework for ethical living. These precepts encourage individuals to abstain from harming living beings, taking what is not given, engaging in sexual misconduct, speaking falsely, and consuming intoxicants. Beyond the 5 precepts, Buddhism encourages a broader understanding of ethical conduct, emphasizing compassion, kindness, and nonviolence in all interactions. It encourages individuals to cultivate a sense of responsibility towards themselves, others, and the environment. By adhering to ethical principles and cultivating virtuous qualities, Buddhists believe that individuals can create positive karma, cultivate inner peace, and contribute to the well-being of all beings. The middle way and balance. A core principle of Buddhism is the concept of the middle way. This emphasizes avoiding extremes and finding a balanced path between self-indulgence and self-denial. The middle way applies to various aspects of life, from our actions and thoughts to our pursuit of happiness and liberation. It suggests that true fulfillment comes from living in harmony with ourselves and the world around us, without being attached to extremes. It encourages us to cultivate a sense of balance in all our endeavors, whether it's our relationships, our work, or our spiritual practices. The middle way is not about compromise or finding the average point between 2 extremes. Instead, it's about seeking a path that is free from attachment to either extreme. It encourages a mindful and discerning approach to life, allowing us to choose what truly nourishes us while letting go of what does not serve our well-being. This balance is not a static state but rather a constant process of adjusting and finding a harmonious flow in our life. The middle way is not a rigid doctrine but a flexible principle that can be applied to various situations. It encourages us to be mindful of our actions, thoughts, and emotions, always seeking to find the most appropriate and balanced approach. This practice cultivates a sense of inner peace, compassion, and wisdom, paving the way for a more fulfilling and meaningful life. The concept of nirvana and enlightenment. Nirvana, a central concept in Buddhism, refers to a state of ultimate liberation, enlightenment, and freedom from suffering. It is not a place or a heaven but rather a state of being beyond all duality, including pleasure and pain, self and other. The path to nirvana involves the complete cessation of craving, attachment, and ignorance, leading to a state of perfect peace, wisdom, and compassion. Enlightenment, often synonymous with nirvana, is the awakening to the true nature of reality, recognizing the impermanence of all things, the interconnectedness of all beings, and the illusory nature of the ego. It is a profound transformation of consciousness, characterized by deep wisdom, clarity, and liberation from the cycle of suffering and rebirth. The attainment of nirvana is not a destination but a process of ongoing cultivation. It involves the practice of mindfulness, meditation, compassion, and ethical conduct. It is a journey of self-discovery, transformation, and liberation, leading to a state of profound peace and joy.